As I moved the ears, my father crouched closer to see the next play. Sometimes his nose nearly kissed the screen. "I think that you're just going to have to hold it there." A human hand wrapped tight around the aerial could sometimes improve the picture, bringing it from sandstorm in the desert to cloudy day near home. So there I would stand, hand clasped around the aerial, staring into the screen, tilting my head almost upside down, looking into the action with my glasses sliding down the bridge of my nose. "That's a little better," my father would say. "That's almost good." But mostly I was spared the acrobatics and contortions. Mostly my father and I sat and watched football together. Through football, my father explained the world to me. And in time, he made me want to play. I wanted to be like the guys on the screen, the heroes, the mythical men. Even then, I knew it was a ridiculous wish. I was big enough, but I was soft and fat and good at school. I wore glasses. I was last kid picked, or next to last. My father believed in almost no one. He disliked politicians. He called John F. Kennedy, who was then our senator, Blackjack. He had no time for newspaper writers or big-name authors. He never went to church, never opened a Bible, and never said a word about God. He thought his bosses were fools. In time, he came to love Johnny Carson, and Richard Nixon, too. But when I was a small boy, football players were the only men my father admired. He loved Jim Brown, and he loved Yelverton Abraham Tittle, Y.A. Tittle. As much as my father adored his New York Giants, he still loved it when Jim Brown got on a roll against them. To my father, Jim Brown was the greatest football player ever. There never was one like him. There never would be. When Brown stepped on the field, my father's love for the Giants dissolved. Sam Huff, their fierce linebacker, became Huff the Bluff. Then the game was all about Jim Brown. Play after play, Brown took the ball and plunged into the middle of the line. For a moment, everything was still. There was an unmoving knot of snarling, pushing men. But then the pile moved, not much. A foot, maybe. Almost miraculously, it didn't seem like he'd been touched. A Giants player flew off the front of the mass. "There goes Huff." And then another Giant came off, faster this time, like an electron shot into space. The pile broke, and New York Giants and a few Cleveland Browns scattered like crumbs. Staggering slightly, alone in what had been the middle, was Jim Brown. He was free, and he was pumping down the field for 10, 12, 15 more yards, until a couple of defensive backs hopped on him from behind, and a couple of the linemen who'd been shaken off the pile managed to get up and get downfield, and there were finally 4 or 5 Giants on him. It took that many men to tackle Jim Brown. Jim Brown, 9 years in the game, set and kept the career rushing record for more than 3 decades, until he was surpassed by a player who had been in 50% more games than he had. Jim Brown gained more than 5 yards per carry, an astonishing feat. In theory, if you simply gave Jim the ball every play, you would get a first down in only 2 attempts. There would be no third down drama. Jim Brown had the feet of a ballerina when he dodged tacklers or skipped along the sidelines. But he had the muscle of a bull. He never ducked a hit. He ran over his enemies. When he finally was tackled, he rose with slow dignity. Brown called it getting up with leisure. "He's like a king out there," my father said.